block action of the G1 CLIMAX 34 is done, but we continue on with our daily coverage here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show podcast. Hello, it is me, it is Warren Hayes, and this is where we're at. We're at the very tail end. Block action is done. The playoffs are set. We're going to talk about that in a second. Well, in a couple of seconds, because we're going to go through the whole show like we've been doing for the entirety of the G1. That's what I've been doing. If you're popping in right now and you're like, what do you mean daily coverage, pal? Well, I've been doing this from the start. All 16 nights or days, this has become the meme, have been covered, and we're now heading into the final. So yeah, this is just one of a multi-part series that you can enjoy. You can go back and listen if it's your first time here. Welcome. Subscribe to the channel. There's all sorts of goodies that happen like this, or subscribe to the podcast, because this is also available on the audio side of things as well. If you enjoy the Apple Podcasts or the Spotify or any other podcast application of choice, I'm there with not only the G1 stuff, other wrestling talk, but we're not doing other wrestling talk today. We're focused, hyper-focused on the G1 in these little daily coverage videos. And today is night 16, day 16. We're wrapping it up. It is the last night of B Block. And it was a show. It was a good show overall, don't get me wrong, but I feel like we were treated to the drama so well on night 15 with the end of A Block, where I thought the conclusion was very satisfying. I felt like there was a proper payoff. Here, I don't know. Did it have maybe something to do with the fact that Yuya Uemura had to forfeit from the tournament, and did he have a role to play a little more in the drama moving forward? You know what? At this stage, we will never know. It's just something. It's a secret that Goto will have to carry to his grave. At this point, we just don't know. So yeah, that's essentially the thing. So if that had some kind of impact, like on the overall dramatic story of wrapping up Block B today, well, I we'll never know. But as it stands, like, things sort of just went forward, and maybe this is a testament to this idea where everyone in the block, throughout the entirety of the tournament. Block B was just like everyone was within reach, right? It was like a big pate of pro wrestling where everyone was just within reach of each other, and that carried to the end. Like, there wasn't someone who was a breakaway leader, there wasn't someone who was well positioned to move forward, kind of like Zack Sabre Jr. in Block A, or in previous editions, where sometimes you'll just have one person like breakaway or two. Now it was just like everyone was so close together that when we finally got to destination, then it was time. It was very hard to wrap your head around all the scenarios, because there were so many scenarios for everyone to move forward. So it really just became a question of, okay, well, we'll just wait for the match results, and they're kind of independent to each other. It wasn't maybe the most thrilling conclusion, is what I'm trying to say. The show was good. It was a good wrestling show overall, but I thought the drama was better on night 15 as opposed to here. But look, let's go ahead and start by talking about the attendance of the show at the Hamamatsu Arena in Hamamatsu. 1,607 people. So if we compare this to last year in the G1 CLIMAX 33, we just happened to be in Hamamatsu, but not in the same venue. We were in the ACT Arena. 2,001 people showed up. The main event was Tetsuya Naito and Hiroshi Tanahashi, co-main evented by Zack Sabre Jr. and Hirooki Goto. So drew tonight's show drew less people, but you had the more fan friendly main event. If we were, let's say we were to check it out and see the last time we were in the Hamamatsu arena, we would have to go back to the G1 CLIMAX 32 for this specific venue. So we go back 2 years, and that drew 1,128 people. That had Will Ospreay and Dave Finlay in the main event, as well as Kenta versus Hirooki Goto. So we did better business than what we did 2 years ago in the same arena in Hamamatsu, but not as good business as in Hamamatsu last year. Than in Hamamatsu last year, but not in the same venue. Like, that's the Axe City Hamamatsu arena, right? And here's something interesting. New Japan went to Hamamatsu in the Axe City arena earlier this year. They were there for they had a Road to show on the Sakura Genesis tour in March 31st, actually. That was the show that was main evented by the King of Pro Wrestling Rural Revitalization in Hamamatsu 2 out of 3 falls match between Great Khan and Tonga Loa, which was a disaster. It was not good. And, I'm revisiting this now on Cage Match that has a rating of 2.17. That's not great, folks. Yeah, that was ultimately part of Tongaloa's farewell tour, so that's essentially and we had drawn that was the comparison I wanted to make. It was 1,105 in Hamamatsu earlier this year, but in a different venue. So again, 1,607 in the Hamamatsu arena as opposed to Act City. And they drew more, 1,607, and thankfully, like you would assume, they drew. Maybe if Hamamatsu had gotten a better main event when they were here last March, maybe they would have drawn more tonight. Anyway, still not a bad little house. Not good, not great, bad little house. Not bad. As for the results, well, of course, since Yuya Uemura had to forfeit his spot, well, Oleg Boltin got an extra 2 points, although he did not compete in singles competition in the tournament, so he finished with 8. Otherwise, of the 4 matches that we did get to see, HENARE defeated Hirooki Goto, David Finlay defeated El Phantasmo, Konosuke Takeshita defeated Ren Narita, and Yota Tsuji defeated Jeff Cobb. Let's jump right in then with the opener, which was HENARE versus Hirooki Goto. And I was talking about just yesterday how there was still a very slim chance for Goto to move forward, but there were 2 elements that had to happen. He had to, of course, win his match, and Dave Finlay had to lose his. And then there was maybe a circumstance between the other matches where he could possibly still move forward. Unfortunately, whatever hopes we had for Goto to move forward were completely dashed here when in this match with HENARE, which I thought was pretty good nonetheless. I don't know how much time I want to spend on the match itself, but I thought this was a good little match. I gave it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed the final, the back half of the match a lot. Where you have HENARE landing a berserker bomb, goes for a rampage, it's blocked, but so instead he needs he eats a knee and a PK for HENARE. Goto eats that. HENARE is delivering these goods. Goto lands in a sleeper, almost knocks him out, hits the GTW. A rampage by HENARE connects. They have a headbutt exchange and a flying headbutt by HENARE, who lands the Streets of Rage and wins. And immediately you're like, okay, well, that's it. That's it for Goto. It was a nice little story. Both men end the tournament with, do they end with 8 points apiece? I believe so, right? Yes. Yeah, I mean, this is a, this was a nice story again, but look, this is the thing with Goto this year, 2 Cinderella stories, right? They did it twice, essentially. They did it for the New Japan Cup, although you can argue that for the New Japan Cup, Goto was never planned to go as far as he did. He probably benefited from Dave Finlay having to forfeit his spot himself because he was injured and couldn't compete. So without a doubt, Goto benefited from that, but it did create a great story towards the end. And this is kind of the same thing here, where, a lot of us got alive, and me as me first here, maybe not first, but you know what I mean? Like, yeah, maybe not me first, but I got excited at the thought of Goto moving forward after the great performances he had. You got to wonder though, I know there, maybe we're clinging on to this. Maybe I'm clinging on to this a little too much, right? But I know, like Goto, he likes his very long-term stories, right? He likes to place things, and sometimes they don't pay off in over a year and stuff like that. So is there perhaps the possibility to set up here? Sorry, my phone notifications are, I thought I had muted them. I apologize. Let's move on. But is Goto establishing a story maybe for next year where Goto finally wins a big one, but not in 2024, not at the Tokyo Dome, but maybe he will get a moment in the sun. Maybe, where, look, it's hard to deny, at least on the Western Front, I feel like there's been a lot of support for a Goto run, especially following the quality of his matches in this G1. I feel like there is support from the live crowds. He's been getting tremendous reactions, people chanting his name. I think it's hard to what I want to say. I think it's hard to deny. There you go. That's the word I was looking for. Deny. A very hard word in the English vocabulary to remember. So maybe Goto sort of, not Goto, but Goto looks at this and is like, well, maybe we've got. Well, why don't we try something else? We'll see. We'll see how this goes. We'll talk about this over the course of next year, and maybe he'll just be put your tag team together again and go win World Tag League again. Maybe that's all. Maybe that's all that's in the cards, really. Maybe I'm clutching on to this too much, but it'll be hard to deny that the Hirooki Goto story of the G1 is. It'll be hard to deny that it wasn't a good one. That it wasn't a top one anyway. Something that generated interest and excitement for at least a couple of nights, right? Back to the results. Back to the review, not the results, the reviews. Dave Finlay defeated El Phantasmo in the second match of the evening for the block action. A plancha early by ELP. And this spills into the audience. They circle all the way back, and then there's a dive by ELP that follows, followed by the springboard senton lion salt combo, an Irish curse backbreaker by Finlay, followed by the into oblivion, strikes by ELP, but he eats another Irish curse for his trouble. He tries to do that full body schoolboy that he doesn't, the one where he lays his body completely on top of the legs, which looks like it's impossible to kick out from. That's a really great move. Then he being ELP, hits an into oblivion himself and a super kick. Buckle bomb by Finlay, followed up by a power bomb and a CR2 by ELP, and then lands the Thunder Kiss 86. But Goto drags the referee out of the ring so that he doesn't complete the 3 count, and ELP turns around, everyone's arguing, he didn't quite see what happened, and he thinks Jado dragged the referee out of the ring, and he's like, the hell, man, what are you doing? Aren't you supposed to be on my side? But there's all these distractions, a shillelagh shot by Dave Finlay, and the overkill for the win. And Dave Finlay scores his 12th point, while ELP stays at 6. So there's no spoiler happening here. In fact, Dave Finlay with that victory secured his spot in the playoffs as the guy who gets the bye. He gets the bye in the semifinals of the semifinals of the playoffs. So good for him. I gave this match 3 1/4. I thought it was okay. I could have done without the nonsense, but I see also that they're telling a story with Jado, who throughout the tournament had been like, no, don't do the crazy bumps, don't do this, don't do that. And commentary was saying, Walker Stewart was saying, Jado has been an impediment throughout the tournament, keeping ELP from doing his big moves. And I'm like, has he? Because I remember a couple of spots, like one specifically where you can clearly see Jado waving ELP down from the top turnbuckle from doing a splash onto the other side of the barricade into the audience kind of thing. And ELP's like, screw that, man. Was that the story here? Because I didn't pick up on it. I'm not quite sure that was the story. The story was ELP is sad. But tonight he was not sad. He did the full heart gimmick with his fingers, so it was no longer broken. He's gotten over Hikuleo. He's ready to move on. He's good. He's ready to play the field again. Like a divorcee dad. He's ready to open up, Bumble or Tinder or Adult Friend Finder or Craigslist. And he's ready to play the field again. So there you go. I don't understand what the story was here. Or at least I understand the story here, but it didn't. I feel like it wasn't like this thing that suddenly took on a life of its own. Look, we'll see. We'll see how things go. Then we had, but anyway, we'll see how things go. Phantasmo was eliminated. We'll see how things develop moving forward. And maybe there's been post-match comments that'll clear everything up, and ELP can go watch the tape as well. Like he doesn't have to live in the idea that Jado, backstabbed them or something. Although, something has to happen with ELP. We got to cut this shit out. Konosuke Takeshita defeated Red Narita. I gave this 2 3/4 stars, and I wish, and I'm still debating as to whether I bump it up to 3. I think I'm going to bump it up to 3, because the House of Torture stuff was there, and I was so annoyed by it. But I thought it was a good, maybe as I'm debating here, not as I'm explaining my thought process, not debating, but maybe as I'm explaining my thought process, maybe it'll help me settle on a number. But I've been, the House of Torture stuff is happening. It happens before the bell. They drag Takeshita to the ring. He's still in his jacket and all that. And Narita goes immediately for the legs, specifically the knee, right? And he does submissions and locks, and it's a good game plan. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. But as the match goes on, You know, Narita is shutting down so many hope spots and he's staying so much in control. Like he's so in control of the situation here that I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, well, you know, I think they're telegraphing a Takeshita win here. So I took a little step back and I wasn't as much into it because I kind of understand, I kind of see these patterns too. Like this is not my first New Japan rodeo. And I often see these types of scenarios happen where you've got the you know, one of the two wrestlers who has complete control for an extended period of the match, and then the other guy just like comes forward at the end, has like a little rush, a little boost of adrenaline, whatever, and hits a couple of moves and gets the win. And that's exactly what we got here. That's exactly what happened in this match. Narita was in control, you know, using the knee, twisting it, bending it all out of shape, you know, and yeah, shutting down hope spots over and over, and you know, the referee expels all of the House of Torture guys, you know, so they're not there anymore, and Takeshita ends up delivering a knockout forearm to Narita for the win. I like that finish, don't get me wrong. I like the idea of a guy just like swinging for the fences so hard that it just knocks a guy the hell out. I liked it. I thought it was good, but I thought the match was disjointed. You know, I think it was a little disjointed because of the interference. And, you know, I saw the finish coming. So, I don't know. I'm going to keep it at 2 3/4. I'm going to keep it at 2 3/4 stars. Narita is my lowest ranked wrestler of the whole tournament. Just so you know, in case you're wondering. But thanks to this win, Konosuke Takeshita moves forward. And why does Takeshita go forward here? Because he already had, Finlay had the tiebreaker over him, but he had the tiebreaker over Jeff Cobb. So all he needed to do was win. Well, in the idea, the minute Goto lost, because Goto had the tiebreaker over Takeshita. Once Goto lost, Takeshita was fine as long as Jeff Cobb, as long as he beat Narita. As long as he beat Narita, he was fine. Because even if Jeff Cobb won, he'd still Takeshita would still be fine with his 10 points. Because he would have beaten Narita, and yeah, he would have beaten Narita and he would have been fine. Like so the minute Goto really won the match, it was just a question of, will Takeshita win his match? You see what I mean? Like that's why it's not as dramatic as the previous night, where it's like it's just people have to win their matches, which is also fine, you know, which is also fine. You know, it's kind of part of it, but you know, that happened. That was fine, and he was guaranteed to move even if Cobb lost because he had the tiebreaker over Cobb. So from that point on, nothing but gravy. He was good to go. And then Jeff Cobb and Yota Tsuji went at it, and of course Yota Tsuji won. Nice little strength challenge to start off. That has Jeff Cobb staying on top of things until Yota Tsuji fires up and shoulder blocks Cobb down. Cobb answers back with a pounce and a drop kick. Tsuji tries to do the stomp combo. It's interrupted by Jeff Cobb, who just like plants his arms down. He's like, no, brother, you can't push down my neck. My head is not meeting the canvas here. He does the standing moonsault, he being Jeff Cobb, but Yota gets his knees up, does a spinning head scissors, and the stomp combo then connects. Jeff Cobb afterwards hits a Uranagi and finally lands the standing moonsault. There's a great sequence between both guys that are in and out of power moves, which is just absolutely thrilling. Like just a great sequence of stuff from two big powerhouses that ends with a quick spear by Yota Tsuji, a falcon arrow by Tsuji as well. Cobb interrupts the Marlowe stomp, lands the F5000, goes for Tour of the Islands, but no, instead eats a spear, and a final spear puts him away, and Jeff Cobb is knocked out of the tournament. He had to win, couldn't do it, but so did Yota Tsuji. He had to win, and with his 10 points, he's fine, because he has tiebreakers he has a tiebreaker over Cobb, and so does Takeshita. Takeshita has the tiebreaker over Tsuji, but that's fine because Finlay moved forward, so he's out of the question. But since both guys had the tiebreakers over Jeff Cobb was Jeff Cobb hit the bricks. So there you go. So that's how it all wrapped up with 10 points for Yota Tsuji, 10 points for Jeff Cobb. We're going to have to start talking about, I believe, Yota Tsuji, and I want to wait till the entire tournament ends. But for a guy who has everything at his disposal, who clearly demonstrates the most charisma and potential and crowd connection from any of his contemporaries, right? This is a guy who never really turns it up in the ring. Like, I haven't seen the great Yota Tsuji match yet, and he has been in multiple main events throughout this tournament, in absolute spots where he could just go ahead and destroy everything. He's got at least one more match to go, maybe two, maybe even three. So we'll see. Maybe the great Yota Tsuji match is on its way, but I have not seen it in this tournament. Has he been bad? No. Has he been solid? Absolutely. But if this is a guy that you want to lean in for the future of your company, and he's not delivering big in big spots, you have to wonder, is he really cut out for it? Is this going to be like the right thing to do? Is he going to be the right guy to push? I think we need to start having this conversation. As much as I know a lot of you are really high on Yota Tsuji, and as am I, don't get me wrong, but I was not impressed by his G1, unlike other guys in this tournament, which in at least one other circumstance completely blew my expectations away. And I think that will be a talking point for the end of the tournament. Yota Tsuji under-delivering in the G1. I think, look, let's let it play out, as Alexa Bliss once told us. Let's heed her advice, and we'll come back to this later down the road. As far as recommendations for this show goes, nothing really stood out, and I don't think anything was great. I thought we had, like, Jeff Cobb and Tsuji, I gave it 3 3/4 stars. I mean, but nothing is really, like, absolutely worth your time, I don't think. Like, nothing that you should dive in and absolutely watch. Like, if you really want to, the main event it's a very good main event, don't get me wrong. You can't go wrong with that, and it's not very long either. 11 minutes 37. You could also just you can blow through the entire last night of the G1 CLIMAX. Let's say you skip entrances and ringside nonsense after the matches. You can blow through Block B in about an hour, maybe a little over an hour. So, it's not that big a commitment, but like there's nothing Nothing that blows me out of the water. Nothing that got me as excited as a few nights ago. This is not a a Konosuke Takeshita special, a Gabe Kidd special, a Zack Sabre Jr. special. It's none of that. It's not Zack Sabre Jr. and Gabe Kidd, for instance. It's not Sonata versus Zack Sabre Jr. Just saying, just putting that out there. So that's where we're at with recommendations. As far as standings, well, I mean, if for those of you with the video right now, you can see the standings right up on your screen. Dave Finlay up there at 12. Takeshita and Yota Tsuji moving on to the first round of the playoffs at 10 points, and then Jeff Cobb, Ren Narita at 10. Hirooki, Goto, Yuya Uemura, HENARE, Oleg Boltin, all at 8, and El Phantasmo at 6. That's pretty much the standing there. The standings there. There's nothing to break down. There's nothing to follow up on the standings here. Now we're all going into an entirely different territory. But I think it's I'm pretty sure Oleg Boltin was not finishing with 8 points. Interesting that he'd be finishing on the same level as El Phantasmo. Callum Newman, clearly the guy who, at the bottom of the pack, all blocks combined. Very interesting. We'll break those down, give some analysis on the final recap of the G1 after the finals, which I'll be doing on the MrWarrenHayes show this week. We record on Tuesday nights. We do it live, 7 p.m. Eastern. Otherwise, we'll be available the very next day on all of your listening outlets. It'll be right there. So I don't have much more to add here. There's nothing really to say. There's the final setup, and we might as well jump in and talk about the playoffs then, which are starting up in 2 days, right? Or tomorrow? No, starting tomorrow. Let me pull up the schedule just to be extremely sure of what I'm saying here. Yeah, it is indeed in Shiba, August 15th. So Thursday, tomorrow, is going to be the quarterfinals, the knockout rounds, basically, of the playoffs. So of course it's going to be Shingo Takagi and Great Khan for Block A, and Block B, Konosuke Takeshita and Yota Tsuji. I mean, these are two tremendous matches. Shingo and Great Khan should be a blast. Like, motivated Great Khan, like we've seen throughout this tournament, motivated, animated, into it. It's tremendous, and you kind of want more of that. And I think that he's going to pair up with Shingo perfectly, who Shingo is always raring to go. He's always animated, motivated, ready to go, and also one of the best wrestlers on the planet right now. So I'm not worried for this match. I'm actually excited to see how this is going to turn out, and I hope this great run that Great Khan is on continues, whether he loses this or not. I hope it continues. I hope it continues after the tournament. I hope he doesn't lean in too much into the ha-has of the KOPW title, and I hope there's a bit of a resurgence for him. I've been excited for everything that he's been doing throughout this tournament. I've said it multiple times, I believe, throughout the entire daily coverage. This is not the same guy that we've seen over the past 18 months or so. There's a spark there. There's something different, and it feels fresh that he's in this spot here, right? With Shingo, I mean, and Shingo, you should feel in complete confidence. And of course, either one of these guys is going to move on to face Zack Sabre Jr. Who shall it be? Well, yeah, if you're asking me to put some money on it, I think Shingo's your guy, right? And I think that's it. That's something that I feel has a potential to draw some more bodies into a building. A Zack Sabre Jr. great Zack Sabre Jr. Shingo Takagi match. I mean, a Zack Sabre Jr. Great Khan match would be fantastic as well. But Shingo and Zack, I mean, That has all the aura of something special. That's a big time match. That's a big time match. And I think that's what they're going to go with ultimately. Yeah, despite the fact that Great Khan, and this has been verified by Chris Samsa of sportofprowrestling.com, despite the fact that Great Khan has never defeated Shingo Takagi in singles competition. I think they fought 4 times together, and Shingo has won all 4 on all 4 occasions. So, you know, the odds could be in Great Khan's favor to squeeze one out here. You know, and there's also the impression that, you know, Shingo will never get pushed again. But maybe that impression is wrong. Like, because as much as I still feel like Zack Sabre Jr. is the guy that is going to win here, I've been putting some thought process a little more into this, and I've been looking at the setup here. You couldn't go wrong with a Shingo Takagi in the main event of the Wrestle Kingdom in January. And in the history of Wrestle Kingdoms, New Japan always seems to prefer to feature 2 Japanese talent in the main event as opposed to their Gaijin wrestlers. In the history, there's only been 2 guys who've main evented Wrestle Kingdom in the Dome. It's Kenny Omega and Jay White. Outside of that, it's all been native Japanese talent, and that's, I feel it's a go-to. It's something they usually do. So would they do that with Zack? Maybe. At the same time, Zack has, you know, embraced the culture, speaks fluent Japanese. Like, he's not, you know, an American coming out of left field, let's say, and squeezing his way up into the main event. Like, he has a history with New Japan. He has a history with Japan itself. So, you know, maybe you get a little bendy bend with those rules. Maybe they don't apply as much here. But you can absolutely see Shingo coming in, taking the belt off of Naito, and Shingo being, you know, getting his proper run as world champion in front of a crowd, and then end up putting over one of the young guys. You can absolutely see that, like a Dominion or something. You could absolutely see, like, it's a very plausible scenario. I still think Zack is going forward. You know, he's the odds-on favorite. He's been the odds-on favorite. It's you know, it's a very cowardly pick. I will admit, but it's one that makes a lot of sense. B block, like we said, it's Takeshita and Tsuji, and Dave Finlay will be waiting for the winner on the other side. I am super excited for this. Now this is why here, I reserve too much criticism regarding Yota Tsuji, because I'm like, he and Takeshita, you know, they had their match in the tournament, good match. Maybe they're keeping the big one, they keeping one in the holster or in the chamber, right? You keep the gun in the holster, but I'm trying to use like these cowboy expressions, like I'm an American and I understand how guns work. What are we doing here? So Takeshita, maybe he and Tsuji and Takeshita, they're keeping their, you know, the big one for the semifinals. Maybe that's what we're going to do here, right? Maybe. And what'll happen here? Well, that's a good question. Because Takeshita did defeat Yota Tsuji in block action. So I think it would be interesting. It would be a bold move, Cotton, if Konosuke Takeshita were to win. Because look, like we've been saying, you know, I think Yota Tsuji has to go to the very end of this G1. Is what I'm trying to say. This is what I'm trying to get at. Where everyone keeps talking about, you know, all the, you know, and myself included, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to dump the blame on others, but we all kept talking about how this G1 felt like a rejuvenation, a refresher, And we've only got one guy in Tsuji from the crop of people that we consider to be the next generation, you know, the up and comers, the people that we've been wanting New Japan to push for the better part of a year. We only have one of those moving forward in the G1, which is, you know, admittedly a little bonkers. It's a little weird, you know. No Shota Umino, no Gabe Kidd, no Yuya Uemura. Bear with me. Let's say would have stayed uninjured, you know. You know, it's a little strange. You know, it's Shingo and Zack. Well, you know, they're stalwarts. Dave Finlay, that's fine. We know who he is. Takeshita doesn't go here. Great Khan, he's been around for a while as well. However, I will say that all of this still manages to feel fresh. It feels fresh nonetheless, because we're seeing people who don't necessarily end up in these big G1 spot finales, and especially with the possibility of winning, being in a position where they could indeed win. So that does, on the refreshment side, trying new things out, absolutely. But to sit here and say, oh yes, this is you know, this is exactly how everyone predicted. No, absolutely not. This is not how anyone saw this. We're still sticking to stalwart individuals to drive this home, as opposed to filling it up with the new guys. Okay, just one new guy moving forward. And I think Tsuji will move forward. You know, I think Takeshita, he did great. You know, and as far as, you know, his presence, for, you know, as far as his presence goes from being from elsewhere, from AEW DDT, I think he did very well, you know, qualifying from the block, heading to the quarterfinals. I think that's a good showing. That's a very good showing. I don't think anyone's going to have a problem with that. Tsuji moving forward against Finlay. I think Finlay goes to the finals. I think we're getting Zack Sabre Jr. and Yota Tsuji in the finals. We could also get Shingo and Tsuji, but I think we're getting Zack and Tsuji. That would be my guess. That would be my educated guess. And as for the win, well, I think Zack is still picking it up. I don't think main event Yota for the Dome is there just yet. I started talking about it, you know, a little bit. I don't think he's there yet. I don't think he's a main event dude yet. Not saying that he's not going to be. I'm saying he's not there yet. I think there's too many things that are still glaring that are missing here. So I think this is how it's going to go. And, you know, Tsuji has the opportunity to tear down the house with Takeshita. And if he moves on and he fights David Finlay, well, this will be a really good test for both guys, because these are two guys who just can't seem to get the great match. They just can't seem to get like that one, like the one great match that you can turn to and crack your knuckles as this match starts, and you're like, hell yeah, these guys are going to tear the house down. You're like, well, this will probably be a good match. Not sure if it's going to be like a great one. And the stakes are so high too, you know, it's like, we'll reserve judgment, but this is nonetheless how I feel. I think Tsuji's moving forward, and I think there's a lot on him over the next couple of matches that he's going to have to truly deliver a great Yota Tsuji match, because we haven't seen it yet. And with everything that is being, with the rocket that's currently strapped to him, he should be able to deliver big time. He should be able to crank it up, hit a second, a third gear, and give the big matches. But you know, I mean, here's the thing. He's 30 years old. You know, we keep talking about all the young guys. You know, as far as the young guys go, he's one of the oldest. He's 30 years old. And like we often say here, when you're 30 years old and you're a pro wrestler, you know, oftentimes what you see is what you get at this stage. I'm not saying that there's no more room to improve, but there does come a moment where it's like, look, if we can't, it's not that he hasn't put it together. He has it together. If he doesn't have the drive at this stage, if he doesn't have the capacity to go into the second gear, the third gear, maybe we're at maybe we'll just have to shrug our shoulders and go, well, this is it. There's the ceiling. And I don't want to believe that just I don't want to cap him just yet. I want to see how this tournament finishes, because I still think he has too much potential. But it's all stuff we all have to keep in the back of our mind, okay? Hasn't had the great match yet. He's 30 years old. What is Yota Tsuji in 5 years going to look like? If right now, when he's young, when he's hungry, when he's, in a physical prime, we're not getting that bump, So, I think the finals are Zack Sabre Jr. versus Yota Tsuji. I will not be disappointed if it's Shingo versus Shingo versus Tsuji either. Either way, I think we win. But goddamn, it's got to be Zack's time. It's Zack's time. As a member of the British Commonwealth, I am rooting for Zack Sabre Jr. to bring it home to Britain. To the UK, not specifically Canada. He's not Canadian, but so there we go. So that's what's coming up. That's what's on the horizon. So we have the quarterfinals happening tomorrow for both blocks, and then, oops, I misclicked here. There we go. And then that'll be in Shiba, as we said. Then on Saturday, August 17, we're heading back to Tokyo. We're going to be in the Ryogoku Kokugan, and that will be the finals, the semifinals, I should mean, for each block. So Zack Sabre Jr. versus X and David Finlay versus Y. And then the finals will be happening still in the Kokugan on August 18. That's where the block finals are going to happen, as long with the rest of the card, whatever it may be. Now, as far as this daily coverage goes, as a reminder, I will not be doing a daily coverage tomorrow, but I will be doing one on Saturday, one last wrap up for both nights of playoffs. So we'll be able to break all of that down in 2 days on Saturday, and then the finals I will break down on the MrWarrenHayes show on Tuesday. So we're getting very close. We're getting very close to the end of the daily coverage in and about itself. I hope you've been enjoying the daily coverage. If you have and you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Do it. Otherwise, like the video, give a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, or a 5-star rating on Spotify, or a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and I will be thrilled to the gills. So I'll be around. I'll be doing this. I'll be watching. Enjoy the rest of the G1, folks, and I'll see you Saturday.